Thanks to those of you who just joined us. We're going to wait just a few more minutes to see if we get a couple more folks on the line. So hold with us and we'll get started shortly. Okay, we'll give it just about another minute, and I want to be respectful of people's time. So we'll get started and hope that a couple others join us as we go. And before I forget, I'm going to record. Okay, well, I think I'll get started. I will go ahead and thank you all for joining the Running for Office on Your Campus webinar. This webinar is a part of our national webinar series where we regularly host conversations and presentations around topics that are specific to becoming more active in the political process and engaging in local office. Today's webinar, like you see on the slide, is focused specifically on running for office on your campus. Let me share the agenda with everybody. We'll start, as we are right now, with welcome and introductions. I myself am Amy Zucro. I am the I'm the Chief of Resource Development and Communications with Ignite. Some of you may see the name Sarah Guillermo on your screen. Sarah is our Chief Program Officer and normally manages our webinars. I'm stepping in for her today, so Sarah is Amy today, or Amy is Sarah. I will go ahead in a second and introduce our two speakers, and they will share. Their names are Tiffany Boyd and Nancy Fairbank, and Tiffany and Nancy will share their own personal campaign experiences, as well as tips for running for office on your campus and getting your campaign started. And then we'll take some Q&A or question and answers from the audience, and we'll make sure that we wrap up and close by about 4:45. If you have questions along the way, please go ahead and type them into the chat box. And we can hold them or track them as we go. And then if you have any issues with hearing or anything like that, also tap it into or type it into the chat box, and we'll see what we can do in terms of troubleshooting. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our two speakers. We have Tiffany Boyd. Tiffany is currently serving as Ignite's Southern California Fellow. She recently graduated magna cum laude from the California University, or State University San Marcos, where she received her bachelor's in social sciences and communications. Tiffany has served in numerous leadership positions during her time at San Marcos. Most notably, she was elected to serve as her student government board for 3 years, attaining the position of president. And when she was elected, and she was also elected president of the National Communication Association Society. She is an honor student and is a Lambda Phi Ada. Nancy Fairbanks is a senior at UT Dallas, where she's studying political science. During her sophomore year, she served as the vice president of their student body, and she remains very involved with the governing student council. Nancy herself is founder and president of the No Labels chapter at UT Dallas, and she's a member of Phi Kappa, Phi Alpha Theta, and the Order of the Omega. Nancy recently interned with the U.S. State Department, the MAS law firm, and the Viva Nicaragua. Nancy's graduating this year and will be headed off to the UK to study for a couple years before she comes back, where she plans to do law school here in the United States. So thank you for joining us, these two phenomenal leaders. We're so excited to hear their story. Nancy, I'm going to go ahead and let you open up and share a little bit about your own run and what drove you to run for office.
So I decided to run for vice president my sophomore year because while I loved my university and wanted to give back to it, I thought there was a lot of opportunities for change and for growth. And I feel very lucky to be on a campus where the administration really takes student concerns seriously. So I thought that if I ran, I could make some of the positive changes that I wanted to see happen. And I was really able to do that in my term. So I got a lot of benefits out of serving as the vice president. I got to be on the chair of the student fee committee, which had a $26 million budget. I got to work with the University of Texas System Student Advisory Council, which includes all of the UT System schools, not just UT Dallas. I got to make a lot of great connections, and I really just got to give back to my school and work on projects that I was really passionate about. And I think that serving in student government gives you so many different skills: leadership skills, public speaking skills, learning how to write and present a proposal, working with budgets. And so I had a wonderful experience, and I just got a lot out of my time serving as vice president.
Thanks, Nancy. Tiffany, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Yeah, first off, I just want to say thank you for hosting this webinar. I think this is I'm really honored to be able to share my experiences and have this time. So I started out running for CHABS rep, which is just like a college representative position. What really inspired me to run was that the Campus Women's Center was hosting a Tell Her She Should Run event. And basically our student government was mostly male dominated, yet our campus statistics percentages are mostly female at our campus, and so they were trying to help boost more women to run for office. And so I went to the event and I was thinking, like, that is crazy that we have more, like, mostly a man dominated student government, and yet our campus statistics, we have mostly females. And so I toiled with that idea for a little while, and then when I saw that like none of my other female friends wanted to run for student government, and one of my friends that were in student government said you should run, I just decided to run. I didn't really know at the beginning what I was getting myself into or anything, but it ended up becoming one of the greatest experiences. And so because of my first introductory as a representative, then I ran for vice president, and then I ran for president the year after. And I would just say that, like, I wanted to run for president for the most part because I just wanted to inspire other students to really hone in on their voice and just show that students' voice does matter, and that you should take your student government seriously and try to make the positive changes instead of just, either complaining or anything, that your student government is there, and try to help with the visibility that there is a student government on my campus.
Thanks, Tiffany. Okay, we're going to go ahead and turn it over to some tips of the trade for running. So the first tip is identifying why you want to run. And Nancy, if you want to talk a little bit about that process and how that worked for you.
Yeah, so I think identifying why you want to run is, of course, the first objective that you're going to have when you are just even considering having a student officer position. And I think it's really important to have a strong reason of why you want to run. So I think in getting to know your school and your student body, you can sort of help figure out those reasons and figure out why you're passionate about running. People look towards leaders that show passion. And so I think answering that question for yourself and figuring out that why is important both personally, but can also help draw others to support your leadership. I think that everyone wants to have a leader that cares about their community and has objectives and is able to answer that question of why do you want to run. So I think in order to figure out that why, you really have to talk to other students, you have to get to know your community, you have to figure out the problems at your school, and then you have to say, well, I'm the person that I think can fix these problems. But I think that it's extremely important to have a good reason to run and have that reason be grounded in the fact that you want to make your school a better place.
And can I ask you, Nancy, and then you, Tiffany, what were the particular issues on your campus that you were passionate about and that you got behind in terms of your platform?
So for me, we had a couple of different issues I was passionate about. One of my biggest projects that I worked on was expanding our school's library hours. We had a lot of students who wanted to stay later and study, but we had very limited library hours. And it is a pretty expensive venture to try and expand those hours. You think it would be something easy, but with all the staff you have to hire, with keeping the building running, it was actually like a multi-$100,000 proposal. But we made that proposal, we worked with the administration, and it was accepted. And so now our students are able to have access to the library for a longer amount of time, meaning that they're doing better in their classes because they have those resources available to them. So that was a big project that I was passionate about. There were certainly others. We have a very diverse student population at UT Dallas. We have a lot of international students and a lot of commuter students. And so I think I was very interested in working with those two groups specifically to see if I could help meet their needs.
That's fabulous. Tiffany, do you have anything to add to this tip?
Yeah, I would just say that, you know, your why you want to run, it doesn't have to be a super grandiose like plan or idea. It can simply be because you want to get more connected into your community, because you want to be an advocate for, you know, your, either if it's your major, because you don't have to start out as the president or anything like that. As you come into these positions, you realize different issues more, and you can have more solidified ideas for it. But if you want, like, your campaign could be based on being an advocate for just to, like, whatever your diversity, what you can bring, offer to the table. You just want to bring that. I'm a veteran. I'm a working mom, and, you know, the different populations. Really, you can really build off of that from wherever your background is for your run. I don't want people to think like you have to have this big 5-step plan of what you already, you know how to do or anything like that. You definitely learn as you campaign and as you get into the role of the different issues that you can tackle. But mine and like my platform for my president was just putting student first. So like a lot of people didn't know student government existed, and a lot of the times our student government wasn't advocating the right way for students, but we're more on administration side. And so I just said putting students first and trying to make sure that we're students are at the center of our student government versus just being for administration or something. So
that's fabulous. Thank you. So now, Tiffany, I'm going to turn to the next tip to you. Start early. What do you all mean by this?
Yeah, so one, the campaigning season and everything that comes along with it goes faster than you could ever imagine. Even though it will be long days, at some days it goes really fast. And sometimes there's deadlines, there's things when you need to submit certain papers, some certain information that you need to, just starting early will help you make sure that you're on the ballot and not a write-in candidate or something disqualifies you. Not to mention that if you start early, you can start already making contacts with the person who's the incumbent, I guess you would call, who's in that position, and learn from them, talk to them, and you just have a better focus for when you are on the campaign trail. If you start early and start thinking about where you see yourself in student government, where you see yourself doing in student government, and say, I've already made this partnership with these people, and I'm ready to bring this on campus, or whatever your issue may be. I think it's super important that you do start early. I don't think it's ever too late technically to start, depending on like deadlines, but I definitely think that starting early gives you a better edge to get your money in order together, to get posters, signs, and just to get people rallied up behind you, which the next side we're going to be talking about building your team. But just when you start early, you're able to build connections with others and have a more successful and campaign trail.
Great. Looks like we might have a little bit of a technical issue here. Nancy, are you still with us? There you are.
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay. Let's go ahead to device stream. Tiffany mentioned that before.
Yeah, I think that this is one of the hardest things for people to do initially. I think it's really easy to just reach out only to your friends, only to people that you already know. You're comfortable with them. They're easy to talk to. And so I think too many people just ask their friends to be on their ticket. But I think there's a huge advantage, and I think it's really beneficial to reach out to people that you don't know. And so I think a good way to do that is to look at other student organizations on campus and see who's leading those organizations, who's already a student leader on campus. And if you're reaching out to those people, first of all, if they're a student leader of another organization, they probably have a broad network of people. And second of all, it seems to me that someone that's already leading an organization is generally interested in other leadership positions like student government. And I think it's really important to just go beyond your friends, because people have different experiences. We tend to be friends with people like us, but that doesn't necessarily represent the full spectrum of issues and experiences that other people have on campus. So most of my friends live on campus, but we do have a really big commuter population. So if I only asked my friends to join my ticket, I wouldn't get to hear of any of the issues that our commuter students are having, and therefore I wouldn't just be a good representative to the campus population as a whole. So I think it's incredibly important to get outside of your comfort zone a little bit, reach out to other student leaders on campus, and try and create a diverse ticket.
Great.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback just a little bit off of that as well, and just say that how important it is that you do get students that have different assets that bring to your ticket, and that it's important, I think, to run. You can run by yourself, but it makes it so much funner and easier to run with others as well, and try to inspire others to take a leadership role within student government, because at the end of the day, it's when you're talking to students and stuff, having people that have different circles of friends are going to work, and that bring to your team another skill really works, because as when I ran for vice president of operations, they were not like the people that ran with me. They weren't my friends or anything like that. The president who ran for president was my friend, but the other two, they weren't necessarily somebody that I hung out with, but they were inspiring. They knew what they wanted, and like together we all won on that ticket. And the year after was such a better success, because obviously we had learned about each other, but they were able to bring so much. So these are the people that you're going to work with, and so you want to make sure that they're bringing something and not just your friendship.
Well, and it's building a different skill set, so that if you can't get something done because you don't know how to do it, somebody else on the ticket might. So I think that that's really important too.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Okay, tell me a little bit about listening more and talking less. Tiffany, I think you were going to cover that particular one.
Yeah, so when you're out on thinking about running for a campus position, I think it's really important that you're able to really listen to your constituents, not just bring in what you think or anything like that, but it's really important that the student voices feel like they're being heard, and you learn so much more when you are listening to others and hearing people's positions on certain issues that's happening in your campus. So for instance, if you are thinking about, hey, library hours are a problem, there's students that can't study or are hindered from studying because the library hours aren't long enough, but then you'll learn that, well, on the other end, there's not majors, different majors aren't being given the right class sizes or something. You just learn more when you're talking less and listening. And so I think that's really important, that you're able to listen to others and not just be like a mouthpiece and just speaking, and students don't feel heard. And at the end of the day, being a student in student government, it is a servant leadership position. And so you need to be ready to serve others' needs first before just speaking out and not really listening to what people are trying to let the student government know.
Yeah, I really agree with Tiffany's points. And I think that this tip goes hand in hand with starting early, in that I know that people don't always feel great when they feel like the only time that you're trying to listen to them or ask for their opinion is when you're campaigning. So I think when you're trying to listen to people, it's good to start early so that the other students feel like you're genuinely interested in their ideas and what they have to say, rather than that you're just listening to them because you're trying to get their vote while you're campaigning. So I think this really does go hand in hand with starting early, that as soon as you start being interested in student government, you should start talking to people right away. Just ask them to grab coffee, ask them if they have 5 minutes to tell you about any problems that they're experiencing on campus. And it's a great skill to learn, just getting comfortable making small talk with people that you don't know that well. And I think you'll find that a lot of other students are really eager to tell you about their problems and to try and get your advice and your help. So that's definitely something I would start doing early before you even think about campaigning.
Wonderful, thank you. I think listening more and talking less in general across life is a good tip. Okay, let's talk about staying positive. Nancy, I don't know if you want to kick this off. Let us know what this particularly meant for your campaign.
Yeah, so I'll share some personal experiences. So I have had a number of times running for student office where I've lost. I lost an election in high school for student body president. I lost running for a chair position my freshman year on student government, and then I won the election for vice president. So there's certainly ups and downs, and there are times that you will lose an election. And so I think a really key point is not to get discouraged. Almost every politician or politically involved person in history loses an election at some point. But I think the qualities that set people apart that will go on to win elections is that they are resilient and they persevere. And I think it is really important not to internalize anything negative, not to think that you lost because of any internal traits that you have, but rather just to evaluate that experience objectively and think, okay, what can I do better for next time? Is it that I didn't have enough constituents that I talked to? Is it that I didn't, build a solid enough team? And just kind of evaluate what you can do better without critiquing your own personal qualities. And running should be fun. I had a great time running for VP with my president. She was a person that I really respected and admired. And so I think that having fun is a big part of it that's important. And then if you do lose, not to step personally, but just to consider running the next time.
Yeah, definitely agree with everything that Nancy said, that leaders are people who are positive. I think you want somebody that's not talking bad about either the other campaign person who's running against you or anything like that. Like, it's just important to stay focused on your campaign, do the best that you can, and not worry about all of the other things that are outside of your power, outside of your scope. Just try to have fun. I think I did have fun. I think it's tiring, but it's like so invigorating to campaign and to really try to put all your effort forward to say, hey, I'm here and I'm going to be the best for this position or anything like that. And just to going to losing, like, yeah, in high school too, like, you lose races all the time or anything like that. Like, I don't think that should stop. That doesn't mean that you're not qualified or that you shouldn't run the next year. And as well as that, the position is only so much. It's really the person. And so if you do lose, you can still make the differences that you that you campaigned on to make the difference without the position or the title. You can still work with that person and make sure that those goals are still accomplished.
That's great. I'm going to ask you ladies a question that we did not necessarily talk about earlier, but I got this question from an event I was at recently, where someone said, "What about the negative messaging that goes out about women in campaigning, specifically women, and some ways in which women are degraded or talked badly about during campaigns?" I don't know if either of you had any experience with that. And just if you didn't, that's fabulous. And I do think it doesn't happen in every situation. But if you did, what did you do to keep yourself kind of driven and not upset? Or if you got upset, that's okay too.
Yeah, so I had kind of two techniques that I used. I didn't experience a lot of that, but certainly there were small elements of it. I know my president, who was also a woman, would get the word bossy used a lot, or like the other version of the word bossy, which I think is something that is aimed particularly at women to try and prevent them from being in leadership positions. I think that when a man is in charge, they're seen as a leader, and when a woman is in charge, they can be seen as bossy. So we did experience some of that. I think there are two ways to deal with it. The first is just having other female role models in politics or in other just leadership positions, community leadership positions that you look up to, and knowing that they also had to struggle and persevere against these comments, but that in doing so, they have made their communities or the country a better place. So I think just having those role models that you look up to. I think the second thing is that sometimes it's hard to distinguish between legitimate, helpful criticism and criticism that's just trying to bring you down. And there are sometimes when it's obvious, right? When like the criticism is clearly not meant to help you, it's clearly just meant to insult you. But sometimes there are things that are kind of in the middle that you're not really sure about. And so what I really appreciate is that I have a couple close friends, my roommates actually, and if I get a piece of criticism, I'll bring it to them. And they're very honest. And I think it's good to have friends that are honest with you. And they'll either tell me, no, that's not really valid. I don't really think that applies to you. Or they'll say, yes, that is something you need to work on. That's something that I notice about you as well, and something that you could improve. So I think it's always really good to have a couple of honest friends that can basically be sounding boards for you and for that criticism. But I think in general, when you're getting criticism, not because of who you are as a person or as a leader, but just because you're a woman, that you just really got to have that perseverance and shrug it off and realize that just invest in making a difference in your community and make that your focus, and ignore people that are going to try and bring you down.
Great. Thanks, Nancy. Tiffany, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would say that when I was campaigning my first time as the representative, I did get a lot of negative kind of, I don't know what to call it, but I wasn't sure if it was because I was woman or just because, I mean, you just never know. It wasn't like she's a woman, so blah, blah, blah. Like, it wasn't like that, but it was like negativity towards me running. And you just kind of, like Nancy said, you kind of just have to ignore the haters. Like, it just is what it is, I guess, for sometimes. But when I was running for, it never happened again after. It was one person, so I think it was just one hater. But when I ran the next two times, nothing really happen as far as on the campaign trail. Now, once you're in the position, I think it becomes a different thing, and hopefully we have a webinar about like in student government, because I think it becomes you tackle a whole bunch of different issues once you're in the position and you have this leverage. Because I did experience someone was like, you're a difficult woman, and I want this other set of students to be doing this or whatever like that, and it's just like, it just throws you off. But as far as like the actual campaigning, I never really experienced any too harsh criticism of my being women or being a person of color either.
Great, thanks.
I think you also just have to find ways to blow off steam too. Mm-hmm. It can be a frustrating experience, and I think Tiffany, from what she said and from what my experience was, we both had a lot of fun. But that definitely doesn't mean there aren't times when it is exhausting or it's stressful. And so I think just having an emotional outlet, a hobby, if you like exercising or if you like just reading, listening to music, just some way to calm down for a while and blow off steam. I think that's really healthy and important, regardless of whether you're running for student government or not. But I think it's really important when you're running to just check in with yourself and make sure that you're having good self-care.
Right, and
That's
that
fabulous.
it goes along with the stay positive. It helps when you're able to leave it with either your friend that you're able to just talk and vent to, and then go out and have your best face forward after you're done, venting or doing some activity that helps you stress less, and you're able to stay positive and continue on the road.
Great. Well, because we have about 4 or 5 people on the webinar right now, what I'm thinking I might do is just take it off listen only mode and open it up for discussion, and folks can ask questions if you're comfortable with that. Great. Hi, everybody. Alexandria, Emily, Gabriel, can you hear me? Or Gabriella? Well, I hope they can. Oh, yes, great. Fabulous. Ladies, why don't one of you try to speak and see if maybe we can open this up for a discussion. Alexandria, are you there? Okay. Emily? I can't hear you, Alexandria. Maybe I didn't take it off discussion.
Turn their audio on, maybe?
You might have to turn your audio on if you have it off. I put it into discussion mode so all attendees are unmuted and everyone can hear and speak to each other.
Yeah, they might have to change their own
Can you hear me
settings.
now?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Awesome.
Who do I have there that I'm hearing?
Alex.
Alexandria, is that you?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Well, so here I was just thinking I would open it up and ask you folks if you've ever run for office before or if you're planning on it.
I actually ran for, we have a student senate, so I go to Worcester State in central Massachusetts. And
Yeah.
we don't have a vice president. Our student body is consistent of the SGA president, which is governing of all the SGA clubs and organizations on campus, as well as the student trustee who sits on the board of trustees. And then we have our legislative body, which is the student senate, and that's made up of 25 elected students representing of their constituents. And so I ran for a resident senator last year, but I had to resign due to my, I worked for Congress in DC in the fall, so I was unable to keep my position. But I just recently went back last week to get an open position, and I was beat out by somebody else. But I'm running for SGA president this upcoming election, so in March to April.
That's awesome. That's super exciting.
Is there anything that we can clarify or any additional questions you might have for Nancy and Tiffany? I don't mean to put you on the spot. Others, please jump in as well.
No, that's okay. I do have a couple questions. First to Nancy about your library hours. What were they and what did they extend it to?
So they were pretty limited. They were open from 6 or 7 a.m., but I think they closed at midnight on most days. They stayed open, I think, slightly later on Fridays and Saturdays. But we were able to get it to be 24 hours, 5 days a week. So it's not 24/7, but it was still a really significant expansion where on most days you can find students studying at 2 or 3 a.m. And we did it through a proposal. So as the VP, I had a lot of time to kind of work on personal projects like this. And so I wrote a really long proposal. I collected data from the library about how many students were using the library at what hours. We did a really big survey on our campus to get student opinion. And then we submitted a proposal to the administration. And then we just had a series of meetings. And honestly, the whole process took about 4 or 5 months from starting the proposal to getting the library hours actually extended. And then when we got them extended, we had a big event to celebrate that and to let students know about the extension. So that was the process for that. But it was really neat to get to see that happen, to make kind of a permanent change on campus.
Great, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't hear the question, but I heard Nancy's answer, so I'll just, if Nancy could say the question again, and then I can try to chime in my
I think she was
experience.
just asking about the library hours extension, but I don't know, Tiffany, if you had like a big proposal-based project that you worked on or a project that you're really proud of doing.
Yeah. So at my campus, at the CSU level in California, we have like 1 in 5. There was a chancellor did a study, and 1 in 5 students were found to be food insecure. And so what we did with that is we did write a full proposal, a full resolution, went through the whole process, and was able to establish funds to create a food pantry for students who are experiencing food insecurity. Of course, it was my senior year, so it's still going through the process of, who's it going to report to and everything like that. But we did have a whole mini task force to create a food pantry on the campus that would be hosted through ASI. And then some other just little things that I was able to secure through student government, and of course other student advocates was a sexual assault advocate on campus that was there all the time. We had safe spaces and climate of our campus, and diversity was just a big thing that happened during my time at the university. And so I was a part of the establishment of a Latino center on our campus and a Black student center. And the Black student center, I think the grand opening is like sometime this month. And so it's just amazing to see that they hired the director and the space is there and everything. And it's really cool to see your stuff come to fruition and go through that whole proposals and all of that. So it was amazing.
Thanks.
One more question, and it's regarding popularity in elections. I'm not necessarily a popular person on campus. We have about 7,000 undergrad and grad students combined. And so it's a very small school. It's like high school 2.0. Everyone knows everyone. And that was part of the problem when I went for Senate again last week, was that I got 4 votes because the girl who went against me was friends with everybody on the Senate. And I feel like if I run, I'm not going to win just for the fact that the girl who's running against me knows literally everybody and would win based on that factor and not on her merit. And I don't know if you have any advice on how to change that.
I think that's a hard situation to be in. I definitely felt that way a lot in high school. Actually, Dallas was pretty large, so I didn't really have the same experience here. In high school, I felt that way for sure. I think that people that win elections in smaller environments tend to be people that are just generally well-liked. They're funny or goofy, or they just are popular, and it's not necessarily based on merit or how hard they'll work or how passionate they are. So I understand that can be frustrating. I think there are a couple ways to combat that, at least to an extent. One way is it may seem like this person knows everyone, but I think that there are probably a lot of people that end up being ignored, people that aren't as social, that aren't getting their opinions heard, or that don't know this person. And I think reaching out to those that aren't often getting their opinion voiced is really important. Reaching out to kind of marginalized groups on campus is a really good way to get people to support you in an election. And then I think just going around trying to talk with as many students as possible about their issues. I think that people want to vote for someone that makes them feel important. And so I think going out to get student opinion, to ask people what their concerns are, to talk to them about their issues is a good way to gain support, because then people want to vote for you because you clearly care about them and their issues. So I think that's a hard situation to be in, and I don't know if you can ever fully fix that situation, but I do think there are a couple things you can do to mitigate it.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think my campus is about not that many students, about, I want to say it was 1,250 or 1,250 or what the heck, 12,500, sorry. Students, about 13,000 students at my campus. I think it's growing, maybe to 14,000 this year, I'm not sure. But yeah, that was a super. It's a big problem actually. Is this? It becomes this popularity test contest, and for me, my running was like, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person who ran who wasn't a part of a sorority or fraternity. Like everybody previous to like my election was a part of a sorority or fraternity, and they really band together and are able to like generate numbers. But I think when you look at the numbers really that our voting numbers, we only had like 3% vote. So it comes down to that starting early and everything like that. Like if you can start getting and building a diverse team, if you can get people who are a part of different organizations, as well as just starting early to talk to people, you can bump the numbers of actually people who vote, who turn out, and then shift that number, I think, ultimately, because it just, they'll might, if they're like, let's say they're sorority fraternity, like they're probably going to get that vote. So then you think about it and you say, well, who's else can I get vote that's not a part of that subset or anything like that, because you kind of already know that might be where their loyalty might lie within that group. So let's go out to the athletics, let's go to the dorms, let's go to just different spaces on campus where you can generate votes and higher the voter turnout rate to go into your favor. I would say would be a really good strategy to kind of mitigate that, because it can sometimes feel like a popularity test, and that's when it's like really unfortunate.
Thank you.
I think Gabriella had a question. Gabriella, I know you said your speaker might not be working. Feel free to type it into the chat box. There. Oh. Okay, and Emily's also says she's at the front desk of a residence hall. It's a little noisy there, I can imagine. So Emily, go ahead and type your questions as well. We'll give them a second.
Yeah.
Okay, so Gabriella says, one of you mentioned that you have experience losing, and while I personally never ran, I'm so excited to make it my next goal, and I understand there's a 50-50 chance. So I wanted to ask if you were able to work with the people who won and see some of your ideas or concerns resolved.
Yes, so I absolutely was able to work with the people that won to still see my concerns resolved. And I think that can be a little hard, and that you have to just sort of swallow your pride and be don't be a sore loser. You know, you just have to kind of accept it. But if you are willing to do that and you go to that person with the ideas that you had, if they are at all a good representative, they will welcome your ideas, welcome your input, and take those ideas into account. So I really do. And it works the other way as well. Actually, when I won vice president, there was a really amazing, very competent girl who lost to my president. There were two women running for president, my president, the other girl lost, and she was still amazing. And so we immediately brought her on board as one of our executive committee members. So it works both ways, that even if you lose an election or if you win in the election, you can still work with the other side to put good ideas into place and to do what's best for the student body. So yeah, you absolutely can work with the other people. And I think that in you doing that, you set yourself up better to do well and maybe win the next election by showing that you're still really invested in the process and showing that you're willing to put the student body first.
Awesome. Thank you. Gabriella or Emily, any additional questions? I think both of you are still with us. Gabriella says thank you.
Sure thing.
I definitely agree with everything that Nancy said as well.
Oh, Emily says she's still typing. She's got a lot to ask. Good for her.
I think
Go, Emily.
Tiffany was spot on earlier when she said that you also don't just have to go through student government. If you feel like that's not the right channel, or you do lose an election and you're having a hard time working with the people that won, I think Tiffany was spot on. There are other means to change your campus and accomplish your goals. And so you always can look for those additional routes.
Definitely. And it's so good to have people in different spaces and in different positions with student clubs and stuff like that to help gain an importance and leverage attention, I mean, to a problem. So you have the student government saying it, but then you have this club who's saying it, you have people from this sports teams that's saying it, and having people in different positions and making relation at the end of the day, once you get the position and trying to get to the position, it really boils down to relationships, the relationships that you've established and that you're trying to gain. And so just focusing on relationships a lot will really do you a great justice in the end. And it's just important to focus on your relationships and try to harness your relationships as well.
You two are a wealth of knowledge. I'm learning quite a bit here about just running in general, so thank you. Okay, let's give her a second.
Yeah, while we're just waiting on the question, there was something I forgot earlier about the point of losing but still being resilient and running. And that is, I think it's really easy a lot of the times to see people that are successful in their field and to think that they didn't ever have any failures or didn't have setbacks. And so there's a really cool thing online where a professor, I believe from Princeton, published his curriculum vitae of failure. Like all the awards he didn't win, all the times he didn't get a position, just everything that had gone wrong in his professional career. And so I think that's something important to check out. I think sometimes people are intimidated from running for a position because they think, oh, this person that's the current president, like everything goes right for them. They're always so successful. I bet they haven't experienced failure. And I think it's important to realize that the most successful people have generally experienced the most failure and they've just kept trying. So I'd really recommend looking that up, curriculum vitae of failure. I thought that was a really interesting project.
Great, thank you. I'm actually going to put the discussion on. Oh, there you go.
Hi,
Who's that?
It's Emily. I tried to copy and paste my question into the little box and it wouldn't let me. So I'm taking that as a divine sign to just speak. So I attend the University of Mississippi, and so I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but our student government has received a lot of flack recently in national news as well as state news. I serve as a senator and I serve as president pro temp of our student senate. And I've been involved, I'm a junior right now, and I've been involved as a senator since my freshman year, and I'm planning on running for ASB president next month. So it's I'm very excited. But one of the things that we have had issues with is, as a progressive member on a conservative campus, I personally struggle with the idea of letting my political views over political views in general, that's a sore subject, because it's I'm just wondering if you guys have any advice on how I could perhaps overcome that, because it's something where I don't want people to attack me for being, progressive, because it's considered progressive at my campus to just say I'm a feminist or Black Lives Matter or something like that, which some people think is yeah. But so I just want to know if you guys have any advice or if you ever faced that sort of opposition, because I also feel because I am a woman, I'm gonna get that backlash that people have already asked me if the only reason why I'm running is because it's a feminist agenda, which it's not. But I mean, I'd love to think that, whatever. So I just want to know if you guys have advice.
I understand that. I go to school in Texas, and our campus student government has dealt with a range of political issues because the Texas legislature continues to
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Nancy, are you still there?
our students. Yeah. Oh, can you see me?
Nancy, back up just a little bit. We lost a little bit of that. So go ahead and start from, oh boy, you're cutting in and out, which is not good. This is a fabulous question. Go ahead and start, if you can, just start from the beginning.
Okay. So, yes. So I understand definitely where you're coming from. I go to school in Texas. The Texas legislature has continuously passed bills that would affect the student body. And so we felt that it was appropriate for our student government to address those bills. I would say two things. The first is, I think that no matter what your political beliefs, no matter what side you're on, you will always have constituents at your school that you are representing. Because with your student body, you're going to have people from every end of the spectrum. So I think that despite that criticism that you may face, it's really important to continue to stand up for those beliefs, whatever side you're on, because you are representing constituents that have those views. And I think it's really healthy for anybody to have opposition and contrasting ideas, because that's how the best ideas win out. That's how you're doing the right thing when you're keeping each other in check, by having opposition. If everyone disagrees with each other all the time, I don't think that's healthy. So I really encourage you to continue promoting the views that you have and speaking up on behalf of constituents that I'm sure that you represent. And it can be really hard. I know one hard thing for me is I had personal views about some of the legislative issues that we were addressing from the Texas Senate. And in my position as vice president, we had to survey the student body, and I had to go with whatever the student body wanted and represent them after we did the survey. Luckily, the student body view aligned with my own personal view, so it was a lot easier to do. But even if the student body view hadn't aligned with my personal view, I still would have promoted what the student body believed in. So in general, I just think I understand that it can be super difficult having one set of views on a campus that does not share that set of views. But I think that it's really important for you to continue to speak out and represent those constituents that you do represent.
Tiffany, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'll add a little bit, and I'll just say that there was a lot of contentious issues that we dealt with on my student board, just with, why does this identity, should have a space on campus, or even we talked about wages for professors or anything like that. These became, and they were things that were coming from the legislation as well, and how do we talk about these issues and stuff. And so I think that at the end of the day, I think your job as a representative is to come with, your facts, statistics, or if you have somebody who can speak with their personal, like how she kind of had a survey or anything like that. If you can have students come in and testify, or have some type of statistics behind you, then that's how you're doing your job. And I think it's important that as we're trying to combat issues and help solve them, that you really do keep it to I guess leave it at the board meeting or anything like that. Don't bring it outside of the board meeting or anything like that. I had a student who, he just was on the opposite spectrum of what most of the campus even thought, about just a lot of stuff. He was just your little oddball. But after the meetings, even though I disagreed with him, he texted me. We talked about different issues after he left the board. We still talked about different things. Sometimes we can't go into politics or something like that, but it's important that you're able to maintain your cool and just come from the position of your stance. Keep your stance, but don't feel like you need to harbor it within you or get really angry about it afterwards. How could this person said that or anything, or think that way or anything? You just have to come with your best foot forward, and hopefully it will kind of align in your favor at the end through all of the statistics and stuff that you bring about why this issue should be directed this way.
Yeah, I definitely agree with keeping your stance firm, but not taking it personally, like Tiffany was saying. And I also agree, I think that one way to feel more supported is invite people, constituents that share your view or that the issue that you're discussing affects. Invite them to your meetings if your meetings are public. We just addressed a Texas bill that would prevent transgender students from using the bathroom of their gender identity. And so to that meeting, we invited all of our LGBT organizations on campus. And it was really important to hear those students speak about how this bill would affect them. And so I think if you're addressing an issue that affects women on your campus or people of color on your campus or LGBT students, it can give you a lot of support, whatever group you're representing, to have them come to your public meetings and share their personal experiences.
Definitely.
Great. Okay, so if there are any last minute questions, we are almost at 5 o'clock, and I want to be respectful of people's time. I can't thank you all enough for joining us.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining us.
And
Yeah,
Tiffany and Nancy.
I'm so excited that everyone's running. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to have such a great conversation from so many different places in the United States. So thank you. And to be able to see that, that a lot of the issues are that people think about and face as they're preparing to run are something that, regardless of where you live, it might be you have similarities, if that makes sense. And I just want to say that, one of the reasons why Ignite exists is to really support and empower you all, women across the country, young women across the country, to run for office and to step up and own their political power. And we believe that doing that on your high school or college campus is truly the first step to a lifelong leadership, if that makes sense. And so we could not be more excited to hear all of you, from those of you who do want to run. And if you don't want to run, please support those that do. That's what I would say. We ask that you stay engaged and involved in the Ignite community, definitely by going online, and if you haven't already done so, taking our Declare Your Ambition pledge and tapping into our network, as well as tapping into our online community, where we offer resources regularly to help you stay motivated and excited about the political process. And for those of you who don't have college chapters on your campuses, please reach out. We'd be happy to talk to you a little bit about what it means to start an Ignite chapter on your college campus. There's lots of resources. We have a toolkit available to help you do that. So please do stay in touch with us and stay involved. And I'll sign off now, but we hope to see you on our next webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice meeting you, Nancy. Thanks, Amy.
Yeah, thank you both. Nice to meet you too, Tiffany.
Thank you, Tiffany and Nancy, for your phenomenal presentation.
Sure.